Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Home Video Library. I'm your host Nathan P. Butler. This time we look at a weird one. Again, we've finished up most of what is already inside my collection. As I noted back, I think in the episode on the Kenner Movie Viewer, I'm looking into where the collection goes next. What I've decided is I'm not going to deal with the parody stuff, so if you're looking for episodes on Family Guy, Robot Chicken, Spaceballs, it's not going to happen. Those really don't fit in my concept of what an actual Star Wars collection would be. Star Wars related? Sure. Star Wars, not so much. I also have started to say yes to foreign releases. We had one come in that you saw recently if you've watched recent releases as opposed to earlier, much earlier in the playlist. Recently we had Ricky from Scotland sent over a copy of episode 3 on VHS, so I could do an episode on that for you. I actually at this point have orders coming in of things like the Japanese Laserdisc for the Phantom Menace that was so heavily imported into the US that some people say, well, where's your Laserdisc of the Phantom Menace? There was one. It's just like Revenge of the Sith on VHS, not in the US. But we'll take a look at the one that was heavily imported in a little while. I also have some more of those 8mm reels coming in to get a chance to show you all. But this time, and in our next episode, we turn to some really odd things. I'll show you a VHS tape here. Now, this case is mine. It actually didn't come with a case at all. It's this. Yes, not really anything here except for some numbers. Nothing special. But if you look at the label, this gives you a sense of what it is we're looking at. That's right, folks. This time we look at Star Wars, the interactive video board game. Hey, from the Star Wars Home Video Library, this is a home video release. It just happens to come with a board game, and so does the next one. When we're talking about the interactive VHS board game, we're talking about a game called Assault on the Death Star. This, right? Star Wars, the interactive board game. It's actually called, the story is called Assault on the Death Star, which is also what it's often known as. Contains original movie scenes, plus Darth Vader footage you've never seen before, which is absolutely true. Now, if you look at this on eBay and places, sometimes you'll see this replaced by a little, like a explosive purple thing that says, "New!" Talking about the footage. That is a European release. This actually hit Europe right before it hit the United States. This is the US version, so it is an NTSC tape. I can play it. I can digitize it. We're going to look at some little clips as we go along here and talk about this particular product. From a packaging standpoint, very similar on either side. Edges. This is from Parker Brothers. Okay, and the back gives you a sense of the setup here. We are actually going to look at this with some video recorded off of my iPad. But contents. One 60-minute videotape, one game board, 13 Star Wars figures, 36 cardboard explosives, 6 force level indicators, 2 combat discs, 1 Death Star reactor core, 8 cards, die, and instructions. Interestingly, when you look at the actual image here, it shows the tape, man, there you go, with a Death Star symbol on it, which is actually not what it looks like. It's got that label like I just showed you a moment ago. It shows little clips down here at the bottom. Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith, steers his course to destroy the rebel planet. With an R2 droid to help you, search the Death Star's outer level, collecting cards and planting explosives. The Empire's best stormtroopers, search the corridors or rooms around the battle station. Key security systems have been damaged. Rebels, move up to the inner level to plant your final 3 explosives. One of you rebels succumbs to the power of the dark side. You become Darth Vader's pupil. The Death Star's super laser is almost within firing range. Will you disable the Death Star in time? And we have the general description off to the side. Play the game, play the tape. This interactive movie board game allows you to take part in this all-new Star Wars adventure. Set up the 3D Death Star, which becomes your game board. Then put the video provided into your video cassette recorder. But don't press play yet. First, you have to prepare for your adventure. Select a rebel and an R2 droid, then arm yourself with explosives. Now you're ready to encounter Darth Vader. See Darth Vader. He can see you. When you're ready, start the video. As you complete your mission, Darth Vader will monitor your every move, instructing you, commanding you, trying to control you. Play again and again and again. Your mission will never be the same twice. Set up the game again and try once more to defeat the dark side. So the gist here is that you put in this tape, and this tape has a set running length. You're not going to be able to jump around as if this was like a DVD game. Like if you take oh, the Terror Track stuff on CD, perhaps, from TSR, I believe it was. Or look at my Star Wars fan-made audio drama, Always in Motion Ambush on Ankara, which you can find at StarWarsFanWorks.com under audio dramas, or on StarKillerSound.com under audio dramas, where basically, since it's digital, if you get to a point where you need to make a choice, like in a game, you can just jump to a different track, kind of like choose your own adventure. To do this, jump to track 3. To do this, jump to track 5. Well, you can do that on like a DVD or on a CD, but not an analog VHS tape. So how do you integrate this tape with the game? Well, it's a countdown, basically. This tape runs a set length, and as it goes along, certain things are happening, and we'll look at a few of them here as examples. And the idea is that basically there's this rebel team, and they've realized that the second Death Star is nearing completion, and it's being moved to the forest moon of Endor. And before the events of Return of the Jedi, a group of up to 6 rebel heroes, who are all Force sensitive, use the Force to sort of cloak themselves and get into the docking bay of the Death Star right around the same time that Darth Vader has arrived to inspect the Death Star. Not in Return of the Jedi, an earlier inspection. And you're trying to blow up the reactor core to sabotage it, either to destroy it, which you don't see because if you win, you just turn off the tape and whew, the day is saved, or you're trying to basically keep them from reaching the Imperial goal. And the Imperial goal is to blow up the Rebel supply base at Drin Before, which is where you're trying to keep them from getting by blowing up the reactor core. So if the tape reaches its end, you lose, base is blown up, right? So it's a race against time. The entire game is played out very quickly. You're supposed to roll the dice, move your character, pass the dice along. Go, 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 go. Anytime that a certain thing is showing up on the screen, you go, 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 go. When a clip with, say, Vader pops up on it, whoa, you got to stop, listen to what he's saying, but then go, 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 go. It's really kind of a cool concept of using something you can't really jump around easily with, like a VHS tape, to give us a fast-paced game experience here. Before I show you any clips and get into what's really cool about this, let's take a look here at the components. So here are your various components of the game itself. You got a nice large game board here, and it's got basically, it's representing the Death Star. It's got this sort of reactor core structure. So you're making your way around this outside layer in one specific direction, and as you go, you can sort of travel through these little port things. Pardon my misplaced bomb there. Through these little port things, go to the different things like a detention block, control center, blah, blah, blah. Pick up your droid from the droid repair center over here, for instance. And as you go around, you're trying to plant bombs in specific locations. And then once you've done that, as you've gone around and you've been drawing cards and whatnot along the way as you land on various spots, as long as you got your droid at a specific place, then you have color code keys that'll let you then move up to the next level as you make your way around this ring, planting the bombs you need to plant. And then you'll make your way up to this top level that actually rotates to plant your bombs in exactly the right place. And whoever places them first wins the game, stops the destruction of the Rebel base by the Death Star, and basically sabotages the Death Star and is the victor, even though we assume the Death Star is just going to continue onward. This actually is a story that eventually became part of the Legends continuity, believe it or not. So, kind of a neat little process here as far as a multi-layer game. There are different types of cards you'll use. You have these Force cards that do various things, and it has sort of 2 different versions. If you're playing as a light side character, it's got a light side. You flip it over, though, and you may be Darth Vader's pupil. You may be the one member of the team that's turned on everyone else at a point in the game, and then you'll use the pupil side. And, lots and lots of different variations on it, always with those 2 sides to it. Then you've got these data cards that you're getting along the way, and they can be various, situational things that happen when a certain symbol is showing up on the screen. It could be telling you to go to a specific place or what a stormtrooper's doing and so on. But eventually, among them, you'll be getting these key codes. And these are what you're using to unlock your ability to go between different levels. Now, as far as your pieces, There's 6 possible rebels to start with. You have basically yellow, blue, red, orange, purple, and green. I've used the green here as the example. And each player has basically a rebel character, who's like a little force user type character, an astromech, 6 bombs, they can plant them, and then this force counter thing that basically is keeping track of how many different dark side points essentially you have. The higher it goes, the closer you are to falling to the dark side, and when Vader calls for one of you to become his pupil, whoever's got the most dark side points on that becomes the pupil and turns into another enemy for the players to go up against. Whereas usually, the main enemy is just this stormtrooper that's making the rounds, because as you're rolling the die to move, one side has a stormtrooper face that allows a stormtrooper to move instead of you. It's very fast-paced as things are counting down here. Other cards available, basically advertising cards here. Death Star Assault, 3D board game, Risk, Star Wars CCG from Decipher, and Monopoly. But then each of the rebels has a rebel mission card in the beginning that tells them what order they need to place their bombs in and which type of key cards they're going to need to access the different levels and whatnot along the way. So, fairly straightforward movement, lots of complicated bits and pieces, and to add a little bit of combat into the mix, because there's not really much of that, there is a situation where maybe you are the pupil or someone else is the pupil, and the pupil winds up on the same spot as one of the rebels, and there's sort of a rock, paper, scissors type of combat thing that goes on using these 2 dials. Again, kind of rock, paper, scissors, and so forth. Fargling, they used to call it, I believe. So, an interesting setup, but it's all a race against time as the video itself counts down and different things happen on the video, all delineated within a standard fold-out rulebook here that tells you exactly what's going on. So this is a game that hit in 95 across the pond, 96 over in the US, as a US copyright date of 1996. And the coolest thing about this is that this video uses new footage of Darth Vader, stormtroopers, Imperial officers, as they speak basically to themselves, to each other, and to you as the player. And you would expect that, well, this would be done like it is today, right? They'd find somebody with a similar voice, and they'd have them do it. They'd have somebody in the Darth Vader suit that just happens to fit it. They just kind of put it together for as cheap as possible so they could cash in on it as part of the game. That's what you'd expect these days. But no. This is really awesome here. All right, so they brought back David Prowse, right, from the original trilogy, to wear the Vader suit again. They brought back James Earl Jones to do the voice of Darth Vader again, although he's very subdued because a lot of times he's sort of talking to himself or talking quietly through the Force, so he's not as strong of a voice, I guess you'd call it, a commanding voice as he is in the original trilogy. But that's not all. They also brought back Nelson Hall, who was a costume supervisor for Lucasfilm, or the Lucasfilm liaison and the costume supervisor, a guy from ILM from working on the original trilogy. They brought back the original Star Wars cinematographer, Gil Taylor, to work on it, even though A, the dude was in his 80s, and B, he was retired. It's just this awesome intention of creating a truly authentic Star Wars experience, and even though they could have skimped on it, they didn't. And we got the original Vader, both in the suit and in the voice, and some original people behind the scenes making this happen. It's really kind of a gem, albeit a weird one, in the Star Wars home video library, or the Star Wars gaming library, depending on how you want to look at it. Now, that said, let's take a look at what I mean by how you would interact with the videotape. There's several different clips we're going to use here to try to get this idea across. All right, so first we've got the setup. I've given you a general idea of how this fits in with the general storyline, right before Return of the Jedi and so forth. Here's the actual setup of this mission. The first time we get to hear James Earl Jones back again as Vader since really 1983 at this point, because this is before we get the special editions and a little bit of added voice work from James Earl Jones from that. Here is the opening of the scenario. Minus, of course, the opening crawl, because the music behind it would probably get this flagged by YouTube and blocked in some countries.
Admiral. Yes, Lord Vader.
I'm taking command of this battle station in order to destroy Drinva 4. Inform me, Admiral, when we are within super laser range. I shall not fail, my Dark Master. I shall blast the Rebels' supply base and the entire planet to the eternal void. I sense a disturbance in the Force. Where? Ah, yes, the shuttle bays. An unscheduled Imperial freighter arrived just before me. So, someone was blocking the Death Star's sensors. Rebels, not more than 6 of you. I can feel your presence. Come to me, rebels. Traitors, unleash your anger. It brings you closer to the dark side. This Death Star will soon be within super laser range of your base. The power of the dark side will destroy you and your rebellion. Admiral, we have a small band of rebels aboard. Alert security.
Of course, Lord Vader.
The outer level has been breached. Stormtroopers to commence an immediate search of the outer level.
So as you play, you're able to do a lot of things while there's this status screen that shows. And as time goes on, the Death Star starts up in one corner and works its way across the screen. And when it gets to the end and the countdown hits 0, that's when you lose. And there's different messages that can show up on the bottom of the screen to sort of tell you what's going on within the game. So in general, this is what the status screen looks like as you're playing. That's just sitting and slowly ticking away time on your TV while the VHS tape is playing. Because you never turn it off. It plays the entire time because it's a countdown. And again, let's note here, you can have messages down at the bottom. So for instance, you may wind up being captured by a stormtrooper and stuck in the detention block or something like that, such as in an event like this.
You. Yes, you, the rebel using the Force. Stop. Do not move. Stormtroopers, move to that location and arrest the rebel. And as for your droid... Return that droid to the repair center.
So you're stuck in the detention block. What do? Well, there are certain points where the detention block is breached and you can escape to get back into the game. When that happens, it's one of these several different warnings that can appear at the bottom of that status screen as you play, like this.
Commander.
Yes, Lord Vader.
Rectify the malfunction in the detention block doors and bring me a report.
Now, he'll interact with you along the way and speak with you, as we've sort of seen with some of these earlier clips. For instance, sometimes he might refer to the rebel using the Force and tell you to do something like this.
So, rebels, you seek to disable this battle station with explosive devices before I destroy your main base. Security, I want an immediate search of the outer level. You, the rebel using the Force. Yes, you. Cast the die for each explosive that has been planted. If you get a 2, 3, or 4, then the explosive has been discovered and must be removed. Repeat this until all the explosives have been dealt with.
I might say rebel using the Force. What does that mean? It means the last person who touched the die. That's it. Last person who touched the die to roll. That's all it means. But it brings you into the story and tells you which player does what. He also will sometimes direct you to do things that seem like it makes sense that I'm doing this. Only he's like, yeah, and pick a card or something that totally like brings you back to the fact, oh yeah, I'm playing a game like this.
Tell me, rebels, who has the least dark side points? Answer. Raise your right hand. reach forward. Now lower your hand and take a force card. Yes, Rebel, you are truly feeble. My control over you shall soon be complete.
And what's kind of cool is that there will come a point in this game where one of the different players, right, and there's 6 of you, like at the beginning, like, no more than 6 of you. Why no more than 6? Because that's all the pieces there are in the game that you can play with, right, or different sets of pieces. Well, throughout the game, you are accruing dark side points as you do certain things. So, for instance, here's an example of one of the weirdest ways you could get dark side points. It's based on something you can't change, your name.
Who challenges me? What are your names, rebels? Speak. I feel there are those among you who have already taken the first step towards the dark side of the Force. Yes, it is indicated by the first letter of your first names. Those of you whose first names begin with one of the letters of dark side, increase your dark side power by 1.
And eventually, someone will have the most dark side points and turn against your fellows, and all of a sudden, it's maybe 5 rebels versus 1 dark pupil working with Vader trying to sabotage you. Usually there's a stormtrooper following you around, and it's the things that Vader's doing on the tape that hinder your progress. Whereas in this case, when this happens, all of a sudden one of these players becomes the nemesis of all the others, which is really kind of cool. Here's how that transition is made.
Rebels, the time has come for me to select a pupil. Which one of you is strongest in the power of the dark side? If there is more than one of you, I want the youngest. Good. I shall make you my pupil. You shall forget all you have known and loved. There shall be nothing to you. You shall be mine. Whenever I call you, you shall reply, "Yes, my master." You shall obey me completely. You shall remove all the explosives you have planted and return all data to the central data core. You have free access to all levels. Your new objective is to prevent the other rebels from completing their mission.
And as I said, this is a countdown. So they set up this idea at different points about time ticking away as they're getting closer and closer to Drin before to blow it up. Like this to build tension.
Admiral.
My lord, Star Destroyer Colossus reports that the rebels are preparing to evacuate Drinbar 4.
They are too late, Admiral. In 41 minutes, this battle station will be in range, and with their main supply base destroyed, the rebels shall be crippled.
So you place your bombs as part of your plan in the different rings and hopefully destroy the Death Star. If you get to that point, boom, you turn it off, the day is saved. But there's nothing really dramatic that happens, you're just turning off the tape. But if by chance none of the rebels manages to pull it off by the time that time runs out, things are not good for Drin before. And we get this ending.
You, the rebel with the least dark side points. You can plant your explosives in the inner level, but you only have seconds left. Admiral, fire the super laser. Another victory for the dark side. I've dealt a blow to the rebels. But why am I uneasy? So long as the Force flows in rebel hearts, the powers of darkness cannot prevail, and I shall once again be challenged.
Now, of course, this is just a game. You wouldn't expect a game, especially a board game, to necessarily be something in the Star Wars universe canonically, or in 1995, canonical to what we think of now as the Legends continuity. But leave it to that master of all things minutiae, Abel Pena, to bring it together and make this a Legends continuity story that actually fits. Basically what he did was when Wizards of the Coast had the license for the Star Wars RPG, they were putting out different articles online. Abel did the Dark Forces saga, based on characters like Kyle Katarn from Dark Forces. And in that series of articles, he was able to set up the idea that this Drin Before situation and the mission to the Death Star was actually carried out by 4 rebels. Kyle Katarn, right, from the Dark Forces game series and Jedi Knight game series and elsewhere now, and my equals and opposite story in Star Wars Tales number 21. Shira Bree, also known later as Lumaya, right, who was a rebel agent undercover for the Empire back in the Marvel comics of the 80s. Corwin Shelvey, who is a character from various installments of the old West End Games RPG for Star Wars, and Erling Treadway, who was from also the West End game series, starting out with the Jedi's Honor Solitaire Adventure. So you've got a situation in which this game, which is fun to play and weird to play, and unfortunately nowadays you need either a digitized copy like what I've done here to pull these clips, or an actual working VHS player to play. But you take this game that's already kind of fun and weird to play, and you give it that touch of Legends continuity to make it even more worthwhile to try it out. This is definitely something that, while odd and often gathering dust in my closet, is something I'm very happy to have as part of my Star Wars home video library. Just remember, if you're going to try to find this on places like eBay and such, you can find them relatively cheap. Make sure you've got all the components, but also double check which one you're looking at. Are you looking at one that's actually going to play in a US VCR or not? Look for the one that doesn't say "No!" Make sure you're getting the one that, as I mentioned before, has the Darth Vader footage as the main thing being said down here in the corner. It's definitely worth checking out if you haven't already. With that, we'll wrap up this odd episode. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the home video viewers.